Welcome to the March 4th, 2023 Public Service Committee. Would the online public and staff please mute their devices unless they need to speak on an item? And those of you here in person, please turn the cell phones to either off or vibrate. To make public comment, please, if available, use the raised hand function or approach the podium or other location. Would the public and staff clearly identify themselves for staff reports and public comment? The public will, there is no additional business that will be discussed following completion of the agenda. Madam Clerk, can we have the first item?
Number 8, ordinance third reading, annexing to the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, land located west of Southwest Drive, south of I-80.
Connor White, Planning and Development Department. This annexation is for property that's south of I-80 and west of and adjacent to Southwest Drive. This is third reading. Staff has nothing additional to add, but I am available for any questions.
Any questions? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any questions or comments from the committee? Well, we're ready to vote. Favor? Oh, I don't believe I'm supposed to vote.
No, but you asked. Yeah,
I'm in favor. All right. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 9, ordinance third reading, amending the official zoning map with the city of Cheyenne, changing the zoning classification from county LR low density residential to LR low density residential for land located west of Southwest Drive and south of I-80.
Connor White, Planning and Development Department. This zone change is for the previous item on the agenda. As we're annexing the property, we do need to give it a zone. Underlying zone is LR. Proposed zone to come into the city is also LR. Staff has nothing new to add. I am available for questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, could I have a motion? Second. Any comments or discussion from the council, from the committee? I'd like to call for the vote. I'm in favor. Thank you. Next item, please.
Number 19J, development agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Whitney Ranch third and fourth filing LLC to outline responsibilities for public infrastructure improvements relating to Whitney Ranch fourth filing plat.
And Chairman Lambert, members of the Public Services Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. Before you and for your consideration is, as Jennifer indicated, development agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Whitney Ranch third and fourth filing LLC, Wyoming Limited Liability Corporation. The primary reason for the development agreement is to define off-site improvement responsibilities for the two parties involved. And we basically have the diagram behind you, go through in a little bit more detail. We have two public-private, or one single public-private partnership, which is the purple. That would be the Van Buren Storm. And then, of course, and I've shown the other two on the east and west side of it. One is the Whitney Del Range intersection, which is in the purple. And the final last is the orange colored, which is basically Del Range from College to Van Buren. And right now, the way we've got it scheduled, the Van Buren Storm, we are trying to get to construction this year. It'll be done probably in the summer of 23 and 24. We've got the other capital project, which is the Del Range Boulevard intersection, College Drive to Van Buren, which will be done in the summer of 25. And then finally, capital construction number 2 is what we call the Cheyenne Streets, US 30, Del Range Boulevard, Foxglove Drive, Whitney Road, and US 30 frontage roads. That will be done in the summer of 26. And just to put it all in perspective then, which is actually, the green is the WIDOT job, which will go in the summer of 24, which is the big US 30 job. And I just showed that for context and why the order was selected as it is. as we began to look at these projects in a little bit more 30,000 foot level, it made more sense to work first on the Van Buren Storm to get that connection made, and it takes care of a lot of I guess preemptive issues that could be related to drainage. And then also we did get the funding from them, the state. SLIB gave us about $1 million to help us with that project. And again, after that project, the US 30 project is starting, and we hope this summer also to get what we call the Story extension in, which is going to be a detour route for all of these jobs. So again, working from left to right, the main constraint point on all of us as we've been to look in town, College Drive is basically 2 lanes as you move to the east. So that's why that job jumped in front of the others, because we really have a constraining point at College Drive, which made sense to work from left to right after YDOT starts their job on the US 30. So hence the order as you see it today. I just kind of wanted to give you a little background. Cost and funding on this one. The financial contribution from the developer, we're basing this on a proportional amount of the total anticipated traffic volume generated by the development as related to the 20-year projections at the 2045 level. So that's what the 2 capital projects are for their contribution to this. And then finally, the Van Buren Storm, it's basically their financial proportion is going to be equivalent to what the size of pipe that they would have had to put in without us being there. But there is some public benefit, which is why we got state money for this as well. So that's a 24-inch pipe, the entire length, including all the appurtenances, plus then a patch. That would be their proportionate share of that. Then the city's cost is outside of that. So the reimbursement schedule, that's on the last page of the memo I wrote, gave them 3 options. First of all, they could do it prior to construction of any on-site development improvements. The developer shall be required to furnish a letter of credit satisfactory to the city engineer in the amount of not less than 100% of the value of the components installed to date as determined by the city of Cheyenne, or if all the projects have been constructed, they can give full reimbursement required to be paid prior to the city acceptance of the public improvements within the development or issuing the first certificate of occupancy. And then the last and final potential possibility for reimbursement is per the municipal code, and that'll be based on proportionate reimbursement values to be established by the city using the construction cost index for the 20 cities as issued by the current engineering news record, which basically means if they wait to do this, it's their worst option because they basically have to pay for inflation and all those items if they wait that long, but they have up to that 20-year mark to be able to make the reimbursement. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Cobb?
Mentioned Story Boulevard. Hope that's done this summer, is that right?
That's correct. I've still got some loophole. I've got some logistics to work through still. We have to purchase the property and get that, but the project's being designed now.
Go right ahead.
That's city and county, is that right?
Mr. Chairman, through you, sir. Yes, Mr. Seagrave, that's correct.
And is that gonna be fully built out to a city standard, or is that a county standard, or?
Mr. Laborn, through you, sir. Mr. Seagrave, yes, we're trying to get it to what it would be anticipated for its full width, at least from earthwork standpoint. We're looking at some interim surfacing options, just to keep the cost down for now.
So it's gonna be gravel?
Mr. Laborn, through you, we don't know yet. We're going to see the costs. We want to see where those come in. I'd like to have it surfaced. But again, I want to see where this lays and where it's going to get bid out to.
I think the county's got a lot of money. They can pay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I guess I had similar questions and I realize it's not necessarily relevant to the repayment schedule, but I would hope that Engineer Cobb could maybe email us with an update on what the plans is on extending Story Boulevard at some point. So, I mean, I realize it's not necessarily part of this discussion, but I think I have very similar questions to my colleague from Ward 2.
Mr. Cobb?
Chairman Laborn, yes, Dr. Renee, I'd be happy to.
Any public comment?
Michael White, through you, Chairman. Couple questions. From College Drive to Whitney, is that going to be a 4-lane highway when it's all said and done? And number 2, is it required to let the landowners that are already there be notified that this work's going to be taking place in the next few years? Thank you.
Mr. Cobb?
Chairman Laborn, through you, to answer his direct question, first of all, it's a 4-lane section from College to just east of Van Buren. It's a 3-lane section from there out to US 30. That's based on what the traffic engineers and the professionals that do their job to do that, that's their recommendation to go forward. To talk about the schedule, yes, everyone will be notified. But again, some of these projects are pretty far out, as indicated. Earliest is the summer of 23, which is going to be Van Buren, but we haven't got it out yet for bid. So as soon as it is, I'll start to notify everybody about that one, and then in order subsequently as we move forward.
Thank you. Further comment from the public?
Chairman, committee members, Brett Emmons. Tom, I believe it's 5 lanes from College to Van Buren with a left turn lane. So, and that is all lined out in the study that MPO did a couple years ago. So that study is on the MPO website that shows those lane configurations if the committee wants to see it. I want to thank Tom for working on this. We've been working on this agreement probably for almost 18 months. A lot of it is because the plans have been changing. I mean, Van Buren, the storm sewer, those things added additional comments. I would like to point out I don't think we could ever do it with the storm sewer segment, but we enacted public safety fees with building permits for improvements for public safety improvements, and it might be time to look at road improvement safety fee or road improvement fees instead of going through a development agreement every single time. I know I enjoy meeting with Tom every month to go over this thing, but I don't know if it's the best use of his time writing development agreements all the time. So just to put in the council's mind about doing road improvement fees instead of having to write a development agreement for each project. Again, I don't think it would have saved us on the Van Buren portion because that's kind of an anomaly that's not standard, but I know we did a development agreement for Whitney Ranch second filing. The Meadowlark States had to do a development agreement. It just seems like we're doing, and we're taking a lot of the attorney's time reviewing it all as well. So just something for the council to think about as we move forward. So thanks.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Hearing none, could I have a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or comment from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
again, this is somewhat tangential to the agreement in front of us, so a report later on would be fine, but and I can go back and read the MPO report, but so we're doing 5 traffic lanes from College to Van Buren and then 3 to the east of there. And with the projected build out of Whitney Ranch over the next decade, is 3 lanes from Van Buren to Whitney going to be enough? And are we being
Sure.
short-sighted in building only 3 now?
Chairman Laborn, through you, sir. Dr. Rennie, yes, I think that the traffic demand model, it's the MPO does carry that model. It seems to fit what we're looking at here. It does look at the bigger picture, which is Story Extension. We have to realize that a lot of some of the traffic from that area comes in from those unurbanized areas north of Whitney. And now they'll be diverted on Story and pull it away from Delrange a bit. And then also with the US 30 improvements, you're now looking at a 5-lane section through there all the way through that with a median. So it'll be less, more urban than it was before, and 2 traffic signals, both at Whitney and US 30 and Delrange, the new connection there as well.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Shall we vote? Thank you. Next item, please.
Number 20A, contract modification number 1 to contract number 7321 for the development agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Whitney Ranch LLC to outline responsibilities for public infrastructure improvements related to Whitney Ranch 3rd and 6th filings.
Lonnie Olson, Planning and Development Office. Chair through you to the Public Service Committee. Before you is an amendment to a development agreement for Whitney Ranch 3rd and 6th filing. In this amendment, we are refunding the public safety fees that were prepaid upon the time this development agreement was made. At the time the development agreement was made, the public safety fees were $756 per dwelling in this agreement. And so we will be refunding approximately, or this would refund approximately $69,000. But currently public safety fees right now are $947. So as Whitney Ranch does get built out, that will increase what we do get for the development. And this also allows the developers not to have one sole person building the homes, because Whitney Ranch LLC and Guardian Homes prepaid that. So this would allow other builders to come in and build and then pay public safety fees for the parcels that they do build. I stand for questions.
Any questions? We're not very good at giving money back.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rainey.
so to Mr. Olson, through you, what was the total that was paid in advance? Do we know that?
Chair through you to Dr. Rennie, the total in advance was $80,892.
So we're refunding the entire amount, even though they have built they have built homes there, so we should be,
We're only going to refund the ones that are, the lots that are undeveloped.
okay. All right.
And then Guardian Homes will be charged for the rates at the time their building permit was.
Today's rate,
At the rate that the time that they pulled the building permit, so it'd be in 2021. Rates.
we have 2-year-old building permits hanging out there.
Chair, members of the committee, I just want to add one thing. These specialized agreements that we sometimes enter into for different developments, we have some for Saddle Ridge, Whitney Ranch, Sweetgrass, hopefully no more. Sometimes they are a little complicated to enforce the time of building permit. There were various situations where people did pull building permits, including contractors for Guardian and Whitney Ranch LLC that paid a duplicate public safety fee that exceeded the contract amount. So we have already collected some of these fees in duplicate. So we have the initial prepayment, and then we have fees that were also paid at the time of building permit. There are some fees that weren't paid, but those will be deducted from their escrow account to make sure that everything is paid. And those will be deducted from their escrow account at the amount of what the fee was at the time of permit. I believe that's just a handful of them, like it's like 3 or 4 individual building permits. In the end, the city will be making additional money in the future on these public safety fees. As you can see, the fees right now are approximately $180 more today. Actually, I think it's about $200 more than what they were back when this agreement was initially entered into.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Mr. Patterson, do you want to speak on this topic?
Thank you. I just wanted to join to, first thank staff, Charles and his group for assisting in putting this together. And I was just really more available for questions. If any of the members had questions.
Don't seem to be any questions right now. May we have a motion, please?
Second.
Any discussion from the committee? Hearing none, could we vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to report the recommendation from the Public Service Committee will be to adopt and approve the ordinances and the resolution at the next meeting of the governing body.
That's it.
Okay, we are adjourned.